Welcome back to Near Dog Podcast, episode 103. We're finally back from a shorter hiatus again. It's been a really rough first 6 months for us this year. There's stuff going on behind the scenes. We haven't really had the time nor the energy to record, really. With me here today, I got Zombie, and
Hello.
how are you doing, man?
Well, I was dying from the heat at work, and I was then dying at the heat at my sister's place, and now I'm actually doing fine. I'm not dying from the heat anymore.
You're doing fine now.
Yeah.
I didn't die of the heat at work, but when I came home, I started to, melt.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, it was terrible. I've had worse throughout the week or weeks, but
yeah,
just generally it sucked. But it was very much a relief when it started to rain. So, yeah.
No, I think it just became even more humid.
Yeah, that was the sucky part, that it became humid.
Yeah.
That was the worst part of the heat.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, we've had a heat wave for, what is it now, 3 weeks? 4 weeks?
3-4 weeks.
So, yeah. I mean, I'm sitting in just my underwear at the moment, so... and I'm still dying from the fucking heat.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's not fun living in an apartment right now.
No. And everyone got a really sexy picture of me in their head at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
As well. But, yeah, I'm doing alright. I'm a bit tired. It's getting a bit late.
Yeah.
But, I knew it would be a bit later with the recording and everything. Okay, so, have we announced which movie we're going to talk about? I don't think so.
No, we totally missed that part entirely.
Yeah. Well, I guess if anyone has clicked on this episode, they know we're going to talk about 1987's Evil Dead 2. And the reason I picked this movie was mostly because it's exactly 100 episodes since we last talked sorta in depth about the Evil Dead franchise. We talked briefly about it on the Cabin in the Woods episode we did a couple of months back.
Yeah. I wasn't in that episode, but we have talked about the first movie as well. Was that one that is 100 episodes from now?
Yeah, the very first one, The Evil Dead from 1981, I think it came out.
Noise.
But yeah, it was me, Tagger, and Ogge on that episode. Please don't go and listen to it, it's fucking terrible. But I was thinking, it's been 100 episodes and none of us have picked the first sequel, and I mean, it's a really big franchise, and we got a new movie just a couple of months back, so I was thinking, like, to hell with it, let's go with part 2. But before we go into that and the recently seen, I know for a fact you got 2 movies we can talk about. We got some information for you listeners. We won't go into any details about why we've decided to do these things, but there's gonna be some changes to the podcast. I don't want to call us the main hosts of the podcast, really, because
We don't really have any main hosts.
No. Well, it's like this. From here on out, me and Zombie will do most of the episodes, perhaps. Just the two of us.
Yeah.
And Ogge and Blue will join in whenever they have time and energy or whatever. Otherwise, it'll be just me and Zombie, and perhaps a guest from time to time.
Yeah. So Blue and Augie is not gonna disappear from the face of the earth. It's just that they will maybe not appear in as many episodes. So yeah, as they usually did at the start. And that is all.
Yeah.
So yeah. And another small change that we will have is that due to the first change, we will have to rearrange our schedule of movies from time to time, which means that to make it easier as to not confuse listeners, is that we will not announce the coming movie in the next episode.
Yeah.
In case we will have to switch up movies and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit convoluted, but I mean, you listeners won't notice it.
Yeah.
It'll be more of a behind-the-scenes problem than anything else.
So unless we make it your problem, it's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully we'll be back with a more regular scheduling with the episodes and everything this fall. And we will continue on with the... what should we call them? Event movies or date movies? Not date movies, but you know,
the special
like
episodes.
Friday. Yeah, like, well, they're not really special. We are doing the same shit in each episode. But I mean, like they did Friday the 13th episodes and Halloween and Thanksgiving and so on. We will do those as well.
Like
and they will be more set in stone than the other, the regular episodes. I mean,
so to speak, holiday movies and big franchise movies will be on a more set schedule than the other ones. So perhaps if we have a coming holiday movie, we might announce it in the end of the episode, but those are the only ones we will be announcing: holidays and like big franchise movies.
Yeah, exactly.
So if we do mention a movie in the end of an episode, that is most likely one of the two categories they will be included in.
Yeah. And a last thing with the whole update information thing, whatever you want to call it. Me and Zombie has planned to do 2 minisodes this summer at some point. We don't know when we will release them. But those minisodes won't be about the Tales from the Crypt series. It's about something else.
Yeah.
You'll see what it will be, but yeah.
It's a secret for now.
Yeah. Alright. I think that's it. Should we move on to recently seen?
Yes,
Perhaps?
we shall.
Okay. Alright, so like I said, I know for a fact that you have seen at least 2 movies because you saw them together with me.
Yeah.
And the first one was the new Evil Dead movie, Evil Dead Rise,
Oh yeah.
which we saw at the theater. Um, it's relatively new, so we won't go into the plot or anything. But what are your initial thoughts about it? Because we will probably cover it at some point.
Yeah. I liked it. It was very gory, and
Mm,
they didn't hold back except for the except for a certain character or two certain characters or one
yeah,
certain character I can, and you know which one I mean, that they
yeah, yeah.
did that they held back on, because in every other character they just went screw you and everything you stand for.
Yeah, yeah,
And except other than that they held back on her, like, I understand that and why. I liked it, and I liked the
mm,
effects and whatnot. It gave me, like, not exact vibes, but it did bring me back a bit to the first movie, I would say, in the
mm-hmm.
fact that they didn't hold back in inflicting pain on the characters. They
Yeah,
they went harder on this one than they did the first one, I will admit, because it wasn't nearly as bloody, the first one that is, than this. But yeah,
yeah. But if you take the original and compare it to Evil Dead Rise, it's, you can't really do that because the first one was done on a shoestring budget,
definitely.
while this one had millions of dollars behind
Yeah,
it. So it's, yeah. But
like,
I see where you're coming from. Absolutely.
I did like it, and that they stuck to. And I've only watched 3 of the Evil Dead movies at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and I watched this
Mm-hmm.
one before I watched the second one.
Yeah.
And I like that they keep it to the theme of, we're gonna keep the space that we occupy minimal. In that,
Yeah.
the first one, they were at a cabin. And sure, they moved away from the cabin from time to time, such as the bridge or running into the forest, but main place was the cabin.
Yeah.
And this one kept it consistent in that way too, in that it kept it mostly in just one place.
Yeah. In the apartment floor.
Yeah, while still keeping it, like, moving from place to place. In not, like, being stuck in a single room, or, like, it felt small yet big in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a Evil Dead fan since I was 9 years old when I saw the very first Evil Dead uncut on VHS, which is a tape I still own to this day. And the first time I saw the 2013 remake, I fucking hated it. But I've rewatched it a couple of times and it's fine. I mean, I started to embrace remakes a little bit more the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Say 15 years ago, I couldn't stand a remake. Remakes were absolute garbage. Even though they were good,
Yeah.
they were still garbage because they were a remake.
Like,
But I was a fucking idiot 15 years ago. So, but with Evil Dead Rise, it's, I personally thought it was fucking hilarious.
yeah.
I mean, it was almost a full theater when we were watching it, and I think I was the only one who was laughing at it.
I do think so too.
I did. I mean, it's slapsticky humor in all of the violence and gore.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie goes to a level where the gore is so over the top and everything just becomes ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
mean, I couldn't do anything else but just laugh at it. And I fucking loved the Evil Dead 2 reference
Yeah.
in it.
I personally think that they did the reference better than the reference material. Personally. And
Okay.
me saying what I'm about to say might also inflict or spoil a bit on how I feel about the movie we're talking about when I say this, that what I liked about this movie is that even though it had fun bits, like Evil Dead Rise,
Yeah.
they weren't intentional. They were going for the full horror gore genre, and anything that was funny was like, it just happened to be funny. They weren't trying to be funny, and I like that they stuck to that.
I personally think that Sam Raimi wanted to get some humor into it because even the first Evil Dead, I'm talking about the original,
Yeah.
that's a horrific movie.
Oh yeah.
The stuff that's going on in that film is horrific, but at the same time, it looks so fake nowadays, and it's so over the top that it becomes funny. And it's not meant to be 100% horror. It's supposed to be a little bit slapsticky.
Yeah.
So,
I
for example, in the original, when Ash gets thrown into the bookshelf,
several
and
times.
Yeah, and he's basically just aloof.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
and yeah,
I think that the thing I like about like in the first movie and this remake is that like
this is the remake. It's a
No, this
it's a
and-
soft reboot.
this and the reboot is that they have humor in them, but they are not like trying to take away the horror by doing the haha funny.
The slapstick.
Yeah, they are including the slapstick in the horror part more than, yeah,
I get where you're coming from.
because there's still like
But,
some tension in that the way he's flailing about being an absolute idiot,
Yeah,
even though it's still like haha stupid.
and in the Evil Dead 2 he's even bigger, even a bigger idiot.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed Evil Dead Rise. I know that a lot of diehard fans doesn't like it. I've read a lot of comments about it being for modern audiences, so to speak. And
I
not
think-
for and not for the fans of the franchise and blah blah blah.
I think that may partially come from those comments. I think might partially come because of one certain character in it.
I mean the
daughter.
The daughter,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, when I saw her for the first time, I was like, "Oh no, 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 no!" But I won't say what happens. But I felt like they basically gave a big middle finger to that whole movement.
Yeah, I just think that they just show that, hey, these people exist, and this just happened to be one of those people because they are like becoming bigger and bigger, and they didn't necessarily like shove it down your throat like.
Thank God.
Like-
That was that was my biggest concern. I was like, "Oh no."
Yeah, like they just mostly mentioned it from time to time, like
Yeah, it was just something. The character was it. and they didn't make it into a big thing.
No,
It wasn't important for what happens in the film.
but it was still part of her character, which is why it
Exactly.
was sometimes mentioned, because like it's some because she reacted certain ways because of that.
Yeah, yeah.
she does.
Well, there was a couple of times they mentioned it, but they didn't do it. I mean, it didn't impact the film,
No.
the story, or what happens on the screen.
Yeah, and it didn't like take focus away from anything else.
Yeah, exactly. If they had if they had gone down that road, I would have hated the movie. I mean,
Yeah,
what your political stances are, I don't give a shit. If you wanna, if you have one political stance, good for you. But I don't want to get it shoved down my throat when I'm watching a horror movie.
yeah. I think also what could have been like, what tips most people have, and I say this from a standpoint of, like, from the original franchise, I've seen 2 movies and that's it. And like, so this is something I'm pulling out of my ass at the moment. But it could have been that Ash, a male lead role, has been like the biggest character
Well,
in the franchise.
If you say Evil Dead, you think of Ash Williams.
Yeah. And then suddenly in this movie you have this female main character, and that may have rubbed people the wrong way because of like how integrated Ash has been to the franchise.
Yeah, but you need to take Bruce Campbell, who plays Ash, his age into consideration.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is getting older.
Yeah, I totally get why they didn't like to give him some breathing space.
I mean, I would have loved to see a 4th season of Ash vs. Evil Dead, and I would have loved to see Ash appear in this movie. But I get it. Bruce is getting up there in age, and he's probably tired of reprising the role.
Yeah, so I'm just guessing that may have been why some people were butthurt as well. That not
you are probably right.
that not only was Ash replaced by another character, he was also replaced by a strong woman. Urgh.
I mean,
Because
I actually liked that character.
yeah, I think she was totally fine, but I think that some certain people that get so easily.
Yeah. I get what you mean. But yeah, the Evil Dead Rise, 2 thumbs up from me.
Yeah, and the small spoiler: the cat didn't die, so it gets 10 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
At the very least, they didn't show or let me hear a cat die. So that's great.
Well, we will probably cover it at some point, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next movie we watched together, and we watched this movie the night I became really fucking ill.
Yeah.
And it was Malignant. And this is a movie I want to cover more in depth on the podcast.
Yep.
At some point, perhaps sooner rather than later. Well, we were supposed to have a board game night, and you guys wanted to watch a movie, so I was like, okay. We ordered some pizza, and I chose Malignant as the movie to watch. And the reason I wanted to show you guys that movie was because of the reveal. I sat through the entire film. I was just waiting. I was just sitting there waiting.
Yeah.
And we won't say what the reveal is so I mean, if someone hasn't seen it, don't worry, we won't spoil it.
When did it come out?
2021, I think.
Ah, so it's still very recent.
Yes. But
Okay.
I was just sitting there waiting for the reveal, and when it came, I was, you know,
Yeah.
it just felt so fucking good when all of you, all three of you said in well, together, what the fuck?
Like, all of us had a, like, similar yet different reaction to it, and all of it was the what the fuck as its core.
Yeah, and it was like all three of you had to, pick up your jaws from the floor.
Yeah. Like, wait, what? No, wait, what? Excuse me?
Yeah.
They did what?
But your thoughts real quick about it. What did you think? Was it good? Was it bad?
I did like the twist. Because, like, it wasn't...
The movie in itself, then.
yeah, like, it wasn't an obvious twist that you could, like, foresee, like, either from the beginning or, like, halfway through or something, unless you're, like, much smarter than me. But I feel like it was very subtle. They were very subtle and smart about the way they went around it. To make you... to take away the suspicion of it existing. And it, at the same time, later on, explained so much that you were questioning in the beginning of the killer, like, oh, why is he doing this, doing that, and whatnot. And then when the reveal was like made, it was like, oh my god, that's why. Yeah. Oh my god. And
Zombie became the guy from Troll 2 who says, "Oh my god!"
Yeah. But yeah.
Well, I can say this. I had seen the movie once before we watched it, and I picked up on stuff the second time.
Yeah.
You will pick up on it the next time you watch it.
Yeah, and it's like, that's a good way to make it, that, like, things that you don't think about in the first playthrough, the next playthrough you're like, oh my god, that was a hint.
Watch through.
Yeah, like, I like those kinds of hints.
You don't play a movie, you watch it. Zombie.
I don't. I just
don't?
play them.
Okay. Alright.
I play them and then just sit in a stasis until it's over.
Okay.
But yeah, I do like those kinds of twists and reveals that are like not very obvious hints, but you get them in your second watch through and not in your first.
Yeah.
Those are the good ones.
Yeah. It's directed by James Wan, who directed the Conjuring movies and the first Saw movie, and he produced a couple of them. So,
yeah. But at the same time, I will admit that after the reveal was made, some certain scenes looked a bit like, not that it was bad, but it looked a bit funny. Seeing the killer.
After the reveal, which is bonkers in itself.
Yeah.
The whole movie derails completely and just goes into bonkers land.
Yeah, definitely. And like,
so
that one scene with minor spoiler with the police.
Yeah, I know which
After
one
the
you mean.
reveal, like it felt a bit silly sometimes, just seeing the killer and like hey 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 hey, just
Yeah,
looking.
but that's what I mean. It just completely derails and just throws, you know,
The
realism
mystique.
out the window.
Yeah,
So, but you did enjoy it at least.
I did enjoy it actually.
Mm, mm. Yeah,
I
I'm a huge fan of it.
yeah
I adore that movie.
I came in 100% blind. I was not to be honest. I did not remember that we were gonna watch a movie, and then we were gonna watch a movie, and was like, okay, what we're watching,
Mm,
and then it just started playing. I had no idea what we were gonna
mm,
watch, so
yeah,
I was pleasantly surprised.
yeah. Well, like I said, we were supposed to have a board game night that night, but
Yeah,
I think I got food poisoned
most
because
likely.
yeah, because I started to my stomach started to hurt like hell at first, and then I started to get cold sweats, and
Yes,
and then I started to throw up, and then I became sick for like 3 or 4 days or whatever it was.
for
So
almost
yeah,
an entire week.
yeah, but
But yeah, we were
since,
gonna
since
play the Thing board game,
yeah, the
which
thing, infection at Outpost 31,
yeah,
which we
which we
did a
did,
couple of weeks later.
and it was well worth the wait. Like
It would have.
preferred,
I mean, yeah, I mean, I had I had a lot of fun playing it. It was just a shame that we didn't have more time to play it because
yeah,
uh,
definitely. It would have been if we were able to play it on the first try. It would
mm,
have been awesome because then we had no time limits.
yeah. But for those who haven't played the board games, the board game, I mean, it is basically a board game version of the 1982 The Thing movie,
Which
John
is a
Carpenter's
bit,
classic.
yeah, which by the premise of the movie is somewhat similar in premise to Among Us or Town of Salem or Werewolf,
Yeah,
in that you have one outlier that the rest are going to try and find
yeah.
before they become the doom of them all.
Yeah, the whole goal of the game is that the survivors who are human needs to get to the helicopter and fly out of the base, while the infected player or players need to stop them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a shit ton of fun with that. To be honest, I think we should try to get a couple of more people into. You could play like up to 8 players or something in it,
Yeah.
right?
I
So I
think
mean,
8 to 9 players, yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I think a full game. I mean, like 8 players. I think that would be really fucking fun.
Oh, it would definitely be more
It would be
fun.
chaotic, but
Well, yeah. But yeah, we'll have to string in some more people.
yeah. All right. Do you have anything else that you've watched since we last recorded?
Well, since it's been like I think
One and a
ages and
half
ages.
months, I think.
It's been ages and ages since I watched the first Evil Dead.
Oh yeah. Mm.
So in order to like prepare for watching Evil Dead 2, I watched the first one,
Mm.
and it made me realize that like I did remember a lot of the first one, but there were some small things or details or stuff that I did forget, and
Yeah, yeah.
it was well worth the watch. It is very much a movie that you can come back to from time to time, and it is a fond memory. But at the same time, I do remember the first time I watched it, which was at a sleepover,
Yeah.
and it was, I think, the second movie of the night, and this was like an unplanned sleepover,
Yeah.
and it was like well into the night, and it was me and another friend awake watching the movie. Like most of us started awake watching the movie, but at the end of it, it was just me and another friend, and both of us were extremely tired, but we didn't want to like not watch the movie till the end.
Mm.
So I remember me and that friend just sitting there, just die already. Just die and get the movie over with, please. And we
Yeah,
almost
I've been there
so
with
we
a
like
lot of movies.
cheered every time Ash was on like the deathbed, like, soon the movie will be over, but then he didn't die.
Yeah.
And he was like, I want to sleep, but I want to know how the movie ends. And yeah, you definitely get a different view of the movie when you watch it more clear-headed,
Yeah.
not wishing death upon every character simply because of your own need to sleep.
Mm. I mean, we already talked briefly about it, but the Evil Dead original, I'm a huge fan of it. It's
Yeah.
I still remember the very first time I saw it. I mean, I watched it on a VHS tape, a bought VHS tape. But you know, when you watch a movie on a VHS tape, you don't get the clear
Yeah.
picture of the film. Um, I mean, if you watch a VHS tape and then switch over to Blu-ray, you can see the
Yeah.
difference
Oh
pretty
yeah.
well. So, I mean, the effects in the original, if you watch it on VHS, it gets really fucking terrifying, especially when you're 9 years old.
Yeah, I think it was
Um,
more made for that medium rather than
yeah,
higher definition.
yeah. If you watch it on Blu-ray today, it is laughable. But I mean, I
It,
still think it really has its moments.
yeah, I think it's
Um,
with a lot of like older movies that play a lot with the light of a scene to reveal or hide stuff, and
yeah,
then you get it in like higher definition where the light is better and it's not as ominous, or it doesn't get the same effect as it would have with the
yeah,
original
but
medium.
but at the same time, you got movies that when they was released on VHS, when you were watching them on VHS, uh, it was like sitting down to watch a black screen.
Yeah,
But when they got released on Blu-ray and DVD, they got remastered the
yeah,
picture of them. So you finally got to see what the fuck's happening in the film.
yeah.
But Evil Dead is one of those movies that really, if you're gonna watch it for the first time, watch it on a shitty VHS tape,
Yeah,
because it gets that really grim, dark feeling. And I mean, the original got some really suspenseful scenes, like when they just get to the cabin, for example, and Scott, I think it's Scott, walks to the front door, and you know thing on the outside. I don't know what it's called in English, but it just slams in the wall.
Yeah.
And when he reaches for the doorknob, it just stops
Oh
for
yeah.
no apparent reason. So I mean, it's it got its really chilling moments, and yeah, I adore The Evil Dead. It's a great film.
You can see that it was not made with a lot of money, but you can definitely see that it was made with a lot of care.
And love, yeah.
Yeah, by a majority of people. That this was a very much a passion project, and
Yeah.
I think that's why it stands the test of times as well as it does.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it took them 4 years to complete the
Wow.
film. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
so like so while it may not be like the most perfect movie, I think it stands the time because they had something to tell and they told it well.
mm. And it's made well with the resources they
Yeah.
had.
And like I think to a certain degree it does add to the charm of the movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
No, I don't have anything other than those three. I'm
Okay.
still surprised that I have them, but like, hey, two of them was because of you, so like you and
Yeah.
Blue, so
Mm. Okay. All right. I watched a lot of things actually, but I'm just gonna rattle through three of them real quick. Um, I rewatched a Asian horror movie called Coming Soon. I think it came out in 2009. I had seen it before.
mm,
It's about this theater that has um, pre-screenings or test screenings. It's called for a upcoming horror movie,
mm,
and after they have done these test screenings, the theater starts to get haunted
ah,
by the monster from, or not the monster, but the
entity,
spirit from the entity in the film starts to
ah,
haunt the theater. Uh, it it is pretty typical Asian horror,
yeah,
uh, but yeah, it's good.
yeah.
I mean,
Sometimes typical works because it didn't get typical because of it being bad.
yeah, I mean, it might be a movie we will talk more in depth on at some point, but it's all right. I know that I think it was the director was co-writer on Shutter from 2004,
Okay.
and Shutter is a great movie.
Didn't
It's
that get
one of the
like
few.
an American remake as
Yeah,
well?
in 2008, which is really shitty because it's basically a shot-for-shot remake,
Oh,
but it's about two Americans in Japan instead of. I think the original takes place in Thailand. I think.
okay.
Um, but yeah, Shutter is from 2004. I mean, is is really good, and it's one of the few movies that has actually scared me.
Ah, nice, nice.
Okay, next up, Barbarian. I think it came out last year. It's about this girl who comes to I think it's called Airbnb.
Yeah.
She has basically rented a house which is located in a really rundown neighborhood. The neighborhood actually reminded me of the neighborhood the blind man lives in Don't Breathe. But that's besides the point. She arrives to this house and she realizes that someone else is already there, and this someone else is played by Bill Skarsgård.
Oh, nice.
And
back at it again.
Yeah. Well, they realize that they both have booked the house, but they're like, okay, we can share it. And she pretty soon realizes that something's really off with that house, and they're not alone in it.
Ooh.
I won't say anything else besides that. It's really good. It's really good. It's a little bit of a slow burn at first, but when things start to
get good, they get good.
Well, when things starts to kick into gear, it gets really fucking good. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. And the last thing I'm gonna talk briefly about is a movie from, I think it was from 2019. It's called Funhouse. It's about, well, speaking of Skarsgård, by the way, Walter Skarsgård is in Funhouse. I think he's the youngest son of the Skarsgårds. Anyway, Funhouse is about 8 influencers from all over the world who gets invited to be in a new reality show. I can't remember what the name of it was, but the only twist is that if they get voted out, they have to do these challenges, and these challenges involves deadly games. And everything is streamed live on the internet, and there can only be one survivor. Me and Blue talking about this movie on the podcast at some point, so I won't go into my thoughts about it really. I can say that I liked it, but I'm not gonna say anything else besides that.
Well then. 2 good recommendation and maybe future episodes.
Yes.
Nice.
Okay,
well,
shall we roll the trailer for Evil Dead 2 then, perhaps? Or do you have anything else you want to shove in?
I think it is time. We're almost an hour in to the episode.
Yeah.
But the only thing I will mention is that I think I realized by watching movies with you and Blue and whatnot that my problem with not having so many movies to talk about is that I don't necessarily watch movies like at all much alone, because I like to watch movies with other people. And that is, I think, especially true with horror movies. And the problem is that the only people that I can watch horror movies with is also the people that are in this podcast.
I think you have mentioned that at some point before.
So, like,
but
sometimes it's not that I don't like making this podcast, but sometimes it is hard to watch the movies because I have to watch them alone. And I don't want to watch them alone.
Well, we can fix that.
Yeah, we'll have to have watch-alongs. But
All right. Are you ready for the trailer?
Yes.
Okay. Let's return to the cabin out in the woods together with Bruce Campbell, and here it is, Evil Dead 2.
4 years ago, in this quiet forest, in this cozy cabin, something happened. Something so frightening. Something so deadly. Something so evil. We prayed it would never happen again. Now, from the creator of Evil Dead, comes Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn.
Having survived the horrors of the mystical Necronomicon by the skin of his teeth, a half-mad Ash struggles to ward off the all-powerful demonic influence of the cursed forest. But evil never sleeps, and before long, a mortal mistake will bring everyone back to square one, including the late professor's daughter Annie, her partner Ed, and a pair of unsuspecting locals. Now, as the unholy passages invite ancient dark spirits into this world, paving the way for the advent of pure evil, sanity is at stake. What have they unleashed onto the earth? When fresh human souls are the ultimate prize, what can stop the things that were and shall be again? Okay, so I'm gonna kick this one off by saying that this is hands down one of my favorite movies of all time.
I was afraid you were going to say that.
This is probably one of the films I've watched the most, because when I was in my teenage years, I was watching movies before I was gonna sleep, or I was watching a movie until I fell asleep. And Evil Dead 2 was one of the movies I watched on repeat, which probably says something about me, watching a movie, a horror movie, falling asleep to it.
Sounds about right.
But yeah, I mean, it's... What can I really say about Evil Dead 2 that hasn't been said about a billion times? I mean, I think it's flawlessly entertaining. Bruce Campbell's basically stunt works, because he did... I think he did all of the stunt work himself in this one. As well as the first one as well. It's really good. When his hand gets possessed, he throws himself around and crashes into things and slams porcelain in his head and everything, and
Yeah.
And I mean, I hadn't seen the movie for a couple of years before I rewatched it this time. And even though I've seen it so many fucking times, I still got entertained by it. And even though if I watch a comedy, for example, a lot, say I watch a comedy 20 times, then the jokes doesn't make me laugh.
Yeah.
But I've seen this movie, I don't know how many times, and I still laugh at some of the gags in it, like the flying eye and the sequence when the cut off hand gives Ash the middle finger
Yeah.
and
Run around and whatnot.
all of the other silly stuff that's going on in the film.
Yeah, trying to drag him across the floor to grab a knife when he's still attached to the body.
Yeah, for me it's really hard to talk about this one. Really, I think it's a great film.
Yeah.
Sure, the horror aspect of it is. I mean, if you compare the first one to this one is more or less a comedy
Yeah.
with horror elements, while the first one is a horror movie with some slapsticky moments in it.
Yeah. Well,
What makes the movie so endearing is Bruce Campbell. I mean,
yeah.
he has the most screen time in the entire film, and I'm just a huge fan of Bruce, and I think Evil Dead 2 still holds up to this day. Funny thing is that when I saw it for the very first time, and I remember this, I rented it on VHS and was like, oh boy, the first one was so fucking great. I'm just gonna love this one. And I got home, watched the movie, and I was like, okay, this fucking sucks. Because it was cut to fucking shreds.
Oh no.
All the gore was gone.
Yeah,
And-
like the classic Swedish cut.
Yeah. Basically, all the gore was gone. And, I mean, if you take out all of the gore from this movie, sure, some of the slapsticky humor is still in there, but
You lose like half the movie.
yeah. And most of the jokes are, Bruce
Part of
getting
the gore.
his. Most of the jokes are Bruce getting, sprayed down with blood and goo and guts and. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I rewatched the movie a couple of years later when I was in my teenage years, and I've adored it since then. I think it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna prepare my anus here. Let's go, Zombie.
Let's go. Well, let's start off with the majority of the reasons you said that you like the movie, I don't. I am not a fan. But then again, I came from this one directly from the first one, almost like to this one, with like only like maybe a few hours or days in between. And like I may compare the two a bit much, but I prefer horror movies with splashes of like humor, if you want to have that in there, rather than the reverse. Like, sure, there are exceptions, like Willy's Wonderland, but that one is different because that is like the first one of its series, if there ever will be any more, compared to this one being the second one, having a very different tone than the first one. The first one, sure, it is silly, it has its moment, but this one, it's like I couldn't get into the movie. Like, Bruce Campbell, love the actor, and like the energy he put into his performance here and whatnot, but I just couldn't get into the movie because of all the silly moments, like things that could have, if it wasn't made silly, certain moments could have been made scary. And
There are a couple of points that are sorta scary, but
Yeah, and just things that were like scary and ominous in the first one, such as that like unseen entity like zooming and coming forwards towards the characters in the first one was
sorry to break you up, but you're talking about the camera
yeah.
going after, yeah, that force you sort of get to see what it is in the TV series, actually.
Okay. Because like in the first movie, it was this unknown, powerful entities that just came after something, just felling trees at it as it comes, and just you don't know what it is, but it immediately scares the characters and whatnot.
Yeah.
And in the second movie, it is mainly made for a gag. And on top of that, you do get a face to this unseen horror, which just takes... For me, it just takes away everything that made it ominous and like a force to be reckoned with. And
Oh,
whatnot.
you mean when they read from the passages at the end?
Yeah.
When it becomes.
This big giant head in the door.
Oh yeah. Mm.
But also like away from the comedy part, because like if you come for this movie without having watched the first one, I can see why this is a movie that is fun, and I do recognize it has very iconic moments, such as Ash getting the chainsaw hand and whatnot.
Yeah.
But also the fact that I feel like it's a bit too story heavy compared to the first one, in which that the first one they find the book, shit start to happen, like they just say join us, become one of us and whatnot, while in the second one it's like, here is my entire reason for doing this. While in the first one, like, sure, you understand why they do it, but they don't like outright say it for the most part. They just try to insist upon you joining them.
Well, technically, this movie is technically a direct continuation of the first film, because the first 7 minutes, and yes, I checked how long it took. The first 7 minutes of the film is a short, I wouldn't say remake. It's more of a retelling of the first film. And the reason they did it like that was because they didn't own the rights to their own movie.
And that's
so they couldn't.
sucks.
So they couldn't use clips from the first film. So they had to come up with that.
Yeah,
but if you take the ending of the first film, when the Force takes Ash,
yeah,
and you cut in Evil Dead 2 from about, I think it's 6 minutes and 50 seconds into Evil Dead 2, and you cut that from there, and you put it back to back with Evil Dead 1, you get basically a flawless continuation from Evil Dead 1 to Evil Dead 2. So you when you watch Evil Dead 2, you get to see what happened to Ash in Evil Dead 1.
Yeah. I understand why they couldn't, but it's... And I don't fault them for doing what they did with that, but it still just feels like an entire different story because of it. because of like how they have a lack of several characters, and suddenly Ash went from this goofy character with his friends to like, oh, I'm on this trip with my date. And sure, he had his girlfriend along in the first one as well, but
Yeah.
this felt more like a honeymoon type of deal rather than I'm bringing my girlfriend, my friend, and his girlfriend to this cabin.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah, well, I can agree with you on that particular thing. I think they should have. I think they should have done the retelling or whatever you want to call it, perhaps 15 or 20 minutes, and put in the rest of the characters as well.
yeah,
and,
because
and
like,
just kill them off in quick succession.
yeah, yeah. Because like it just Ash's character would have his reaction would while they still make sense, they would have made even more sense if it had been like a more than a one-off thing with his girlfriend becoming this insane thing rather than several people becoming this insane thing overtaking them.
And
And
he
that-
loses his sister in the first movie as well.
Yeah. Like his girlfriend, his sister, his friend, and like that does take, I think, a bigger toll than just one person. Especially with seeing how what happened to all of the characters. Also the fact that it's even if it is a continuation of the first one where like now we get an explanation to it. I feel like
Yeah.
it felt like a very unnecessary explanation because it was more like this thing is more scary because of the lack of knowledge and the fact that we now get a more concrete way of attacking it rather than in the first movie where like it was very last second thing of wait a second, my cats are fighting. But yeah,
Got some pussy in here.
yeah, some angry. But yeah, like
Angry pussies.
in the first one it was like a last minute like desperate attempt to survive, to get the book and throw it into the fire because the book had not been the driving point in the movie in the first one, and it was like this.
The book in the first one, the book is the reason everything kicks off.
It is the reason, but then it starts everything, but then it doesn't come back until the end of it all. Is the thing.
Yeah.
So it's the driving point, but it's not the main focus.
Well, the original The Evil Dead was supposed to be called Book of the Dead
Yeah.
initially, but the guy who picked up the rights for the movie and the guy who distributed the movie was like, you can't call it Book of the Dead. People will think they're gonna read a book for 90 minutes. Change the title, and I think he
Yeah.
was the guy who came up with the Evil Dead instead of the Book of the Dead.
Yeah. And it's,
But I mean, the Necronomicon has been a central point of the franchise from the very start.
yeah.
One thing I realized now, which I've never thought about before, is that they Ash burns the book in the first film,
Yeah.
and if Evil Dead 2 is a continuation of,
Yeah.
like I told you earlier, how you can cut the movies
Yeah.
together. How does the book still, it's not burned.
It may be. I don't know if that is the same pages, but in this second movie they have pages that talks about undoing what has happened, and they may be like parts of the book, and that might
Yeah. The professor's daughter Annie comes to the cabin with some lost pages,
and that
and,
might be the reason why it survived, because the entirety of the book was not destroyed. So like it severely weakened everything, but it didn't completely destroy it because
well, on the other hand, the book gets a lot bigger part in the third movie, and
well, fuck me, I guess.
And the TV series. And in the TV series, it basically has power of its own.
Well,
like an entity almost.
Yeah, but
So
in the second movie, did they burn the book though?
No.
No, I think that is the driving point. I think they base all of the other franchises on the second movie more than the first one, I think. Because in the second one...
You mean the rest of the franchise?
Yeah. Because in that one, the book still exists. And like, it might just be a me thing, but it's just the second one, it feels so wordy about the whole thing. Whereas in the first one, they hear a recording and shit goes down to hell fast. And in the second one, it's all these words and talking about how, oh, we're here to take the souls, and then this is how you defeat him, and you must defeat him, and this is the soul of the father, and...
Well, there's a prophecy.
Yeah.
Written in the book.
It just feels like the power of the book felt more prevalent in the first one, when you didn't know until the very end that it could be defeated, compared to the second one where they talk a lot about it being able to be defeated. Which kind of takes the power from the danger, because the second you have a chance of defeating the danger, it lessens.
Yeah, but at the same time, the spirits can possess anyone at any point.
Yeah.
So you got that aspect to it as well.
That feels more like a hindrance and a hurdle, more than... And a very obvious danger, but yeah. But like, I don't hate the movie. I'll just say that. I don't hate the second movie, it's just that what I thought made the first one good was lacking in this one. And if you go into this one without having seen the first one, and even if you have seen the first one and you prefer this one, whatever. This is my take.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not saying that you're wrong.
I'm not saying you that either. I'm just saying to anyone that wants to tell me to stuff it, I'm telling you to stuff it. And
okay, you tell them, boy.
And that is that. Those are the major reasons why I couldn't like get into the movie the same way I did the first one. And that...
did you go into Evil Dead 2 thinking that you were gonna get more of the same? Because,
I knew
like you said earlier, they are very different in their tones.
I knew I would be coming into this one with the tag of comedy, but I think I severely underestimated the comedy tag, I guess.
The amount of comedy.
Yeah, I thought that the horror would outweigh the comedy, and the comedy would still exist, but I got the
Oh boy.
other way around.
Oh boy, you're gonna have a rough time with the third movie then.
Oh no, don't say that, please. But maybe I'll be more ready if I come into with the mentality of the second one.
I would say when we're gonna cover part 3, which is called Army of Darkness, it's not named Evil Dead 3, it's called Army of Darkness.
Mm.
Watch the first and second one back to back with the third one. Or
Yeah.
like a day between or something. To get the progression, and the next time you watch Evil Dead 2, you will go into it with the knowledge what is waiting for you.
Yeah.
And because I've been through this tons of times. I've gone into a movie, I was expecting something, and I got something entirely different from what
Yeah.
I was expecting. And then I was, and a lot of times I've been like, okay, this was shit. And then 5, 6, 7 years later on, I'm like, okay, I remember not liking that movie, but I'm gonna give it another try.
Yeah.
And then when I rewatch it, I'm like, okay, this wasn't so bad.
Yeah. Like, to a certain degree, at some points, it felt like more of a parody of the first movie than the actual sequel, to be honest.
Well, if you take in consideration that Evil Dead 2 is supposed to, be a continuation of the first film. In the first film, I even think they say it, the spirits are basically fucking pissed off.
Yeah.
That they've gotten, that they awoken them.
Yeah.
And in the Evil Dead 2, they've been, awake for a bit. And they're like, okay, now we're gonna have fun.
Yeah. I also think the reason I didn't like this movie as much as I possibly could have is that I didn't find the humor funny in it. Like, I have a different kind of humor than... I have a different kind of humor than what was in this one. I can understand why people find it funny. Don't get me wrong. I can be like, if that was my kind of humor, funny. But I think that is also what made me not, like, have as much of a fun time with this movie. It's like, if the humor in the movie was more my style, I could have forgiven the humor, but since the humor was not my kind,
not your cup of tea.
Yeah, because the humor was not my cup of tea, it was so much more glaringly obvious when they were like, "This is where you're supposed to laugh. This is supposed to be funny. Ha ha! Let's laugh at this." And it's like, but no. So you're just sitting there waiting for the bit to be over.
Yeah, it's very... Humor is very personal,
Yeah.
What you find hilarious, I might, just shrug my shoulders at, and
Like,
vice versa.
Yeah, like, for example, again with Willis Wonderland, what I found so humorous about that movie was not the haha funny bit with this thing. It was more like, you have this character that's just beat someone's entire ass off like a mechanic robot, and then went like, back to the arcade game, or like just back to the cleaning and whatnot. Like, that just never happened. Not addressing it at all. And then later in the movie having this character be all serious, like, these robots kill and whatnot, and he's just not giving two shits about that.
Yeah, well, he was on a mission.
Yeah,
You know,
like
he wanted his car back.
yeah, like that those things I found really funny, and that's a
Oh,
very different.
I love that movie, and you know
Yeah.
that. I think it's
And
fucking
like-
hilarious.
And that's a very different kind of humor from that of the Evil Dead.
Yeah, well, Evil Dead 2, I know that Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell are big fans of the Three Stooges, if you know who they were.
I don't think I do. I may know, but I don't remember the name.
I can't
remember it by
remember when they did their sketches, but it's like from the 40s or 50s or something. And they
That
did
may
a
be
lot
why.
of this. Yeah, they did a lot of slapstick humor. You know, for example, they were really clumsy and you know that kind
Yeah.
of humor,
Yeah.
falling on their asses and whatnot. And some of that type of humor is in Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
But to move from that, there are a couple of sequences in Evil Dead 2 which I think is effective as horror. For
Yeah.
example, when the spirits are tormenting Ash, and he starts to get hallucinations, and he goes in
that
front of
scene.
in front of the mirror, and he's like, "I'm fine. We're fine. We're fine." And then all of a sudden, his mirror image
Grabs
comes
him.
out. Comes out of the mirror and grabs him and says, "I don't think so. We just cut up our girlfriend with a chainsaw. Does that sound fine?" And
Yeah.
I mean, just that small sequence in the film, I think, even though I've seen the movie countless times, still think that scene is,
That scene was
It's,
very well made.
yeah, I think it's really fucking creepy
Yeah, and it really,
and unsettling.
I think that is the best depiction of showing how much what is happening is actually affecting the character. While, because like most other times it gets hidden behind the comedy and the reaction of the other characters, minimizing his reactions and feelings by just calling him crazy and whatnot. And that feels like the most cut clear moment of showing how just how bad everything is and how
Yeah.
bad it affects the character. And that
and
really
if you take this as a continuation of the first film, he has seen his friends, or well, he had to chop up his friends and his girlfriend and everything.
and bury them and whatnot.
Yeah, that would affect you, you know,
Yeah.
psychologically.
And like
and
that
and the fact that the spirits can manipulate things in the real world and they can fuck with his head as well.
yeah, definitely. And also when everything started laughing.
Yeah, that comes a bit later.
Yeah.
Just after he gets bit by Linda's severed head,
Yeah.
and then the hand gets possessed. Did you, by the way, see or catch Freddy Krueger's glove
Don't think so.
in the work shed?
I must have missed that, to be honest.
It hangs over the door.
Yeah, okay.
The Wes Craven and Sam Raimi had sort of a back and forth over a couple of films. In the first Evil Dead, you can see a ripped up The Hills of Ice poster in the background in the cellar. And in A Nightmare on Elm Street, Nancy is watching the first Evil Dead. And in this one, you can see Freddy's glove hanging over the door to the workshop.
That's nice. Just bros showing bros appreciation.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a bit later. He has cut off his hand, and I think it's when after he has started shooting at the hand.
Yeah.
And he sits down on a
chair that breaks.
Yeah, and everything starts to laugh at him.
Yeah, I think it's not on the same par with the mirror, but it's still like messing with his head. Everything is laughing, like further driving him insane.
Yeah,
and I think that works really well in the movie.
Yeah,
it's very effective.
I love that scene.
It's a very good scene.
It's unsettling, but at the same time, it's pretty hilarious. Because everything in the fucking cabin is laughing at him.
Yeah, and like, when he starts to laugh, it's like, oh no. Oh no.
And then he hears a sound and starts to blast blast the boomstick.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like I said, it's hard to talk about this film without
saying what 15 other more people have said and more.
Yeah, it's when you start to talk about Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, you basically repeat everything everyone else has said a billion times.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's interesting to hear from someone who has seen the movie for the first time.
Yeah.
And didn't, fall in love with it.
Yeah. Like someone that has a differing opinion, so that one can rub off the other of like, this is why I like it, this is why I don't like it, rather than two people just talking about why they both like it. Like, that works, definitely, but at a certain point it becomes like, what are we gonna talk about? Because the praises we are giving it is just praises that
every
other review of it has given it. But I will say that just because the humor didn't fall with me and I didn't like the movie, I can't appreciate the acting of Ash and the movie as a whole. Because like, it's well made, like not perfect, but it does what it came here to do, and I cannot fault it for that, just because it didn't fall within my tastes. Like, sure, not something I will run back to watch, but hey, it's still a solid movie, I would say.
Yeah. Well, the reason they did Evil Dead 2 was mostly because they did a comedy in between Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. I can't remember what it's called, but it flopped big time. And from what I remember, they said during commentary tracks, it's called, on the DVD, I think. And there is a commentary track by Bruce Campbell from some convention up on YouTube as well, which I have listened to. I think he talks about it in that commentary, and he basically said that they needed money and they were thinking, okay, what can we do that will most likely get us cash? A sequel to Evil Dead 2. And, well, it basically skyrocketed their careers. I mean, the year after this, Bruce Campbell appeared in Maniac Cop. And I know that Dan Hicks, the guy who plays Jake, the hillbilly, this was his first role, by the way. He appeared in Maniac Cop in a smaller role. And 2 years after this, he appeared in Intruder, and Bruce Campbell had a small cameo in that one. And both Sam and Ted Raimi had smaller roles in that movie as well. It's a slasher movie, which we will cover at some point. It's one of my favorite slasher movies, actually. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. You know Henrietta?
Yeah.
Yeah. Henrietta is played by Ted Raimi, the younger brother of Sam Raimi.
What? Nice.
And Ted Raimi is also one of those actors who has appeared in shit ton of things after Evil Dead 2. I think his first role was in Blood Rage, which was that Thanksgiving slasher movie you and me talked about 2 years ago, I think.
Let me just
It's not
grind my
cranberry
gears.
sauce.
That one.
Yeah. Ted Raimi is the condom guy at the beginning of the film. I think that was his first role, actually.
Wow.
But yeah, Evil Dead 2. I think it's a masterpiece, and Zombie thinks it's a piece of shit.
Ayo. And to be honest, even though it sparked a very beloved franchise, it as a first time watcher of like the second one, it felt unnecessary. I get why they did it, but it felt like a sequel no one asked for. Because like the first one, sure, it had an open ending, but at the same time it felt very much like a thing where, oh, you thought there was gonna be a last survivor. Haha, nope. Kind of deal.
Yeah. Well, if you only take the first original movie into consideration, then if you ignore all of everything that came after the original, the ending is basically a big fuck you to the audience.
Yeah.
Because
To like, we're not gonna have a last survivor.
Yeah, which I personally think is kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah. So like, it just from that kind of standpoint, it felt just on top of it all, very unasked for. Like this is a sequel to a movie that no one asked for. Like sure, I can see that a lot of people appreciate and loved the fact that they did a sequel and that it did very well, which is a good thing, but just gut reaction, it felt very unnecessary. Just going from the first one, like watching the second one, just like, well, the first one felt complete, why are we now having a second one? But yeah, they apparently knew what they did, because it's still...
It's a franchise that is still going strong, I would say.
Yeah, so they did the right decision in continuing the saga.
Alright, should we give it a rating? I think my rating is pretty fucking obvious.
Yeah.
It's a 10 out of 10. If I could have given it more, I would have. I love Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
It's a really good go-to movie for myself.
Yeah. And I might lose connection anytime soon because I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. And that is mainly because of Ash. And because of it's a movie. It's not a bad movie, it's just not my kind of movie.
Mm.
Which is why it's getting the middle point.
Yeah, but, I mean, I think you will.
I may come around to it at a later date, but for now it is a movie that
Yeah. Let me.
Yeah.
I think you will enjoy it more on a second watch.
Yeah.
Because then you will know what to expect from it.
Yeah.
But like I babbled on earlier. But
we'll just have to see. Only time can tell.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's like I said earlier, I think it's interesting to hear from someone who is experiencing the film for the first time.
Yeah. I think it being such a big movie, people reviewing it most likely have seen it more than once.
Yeah. There's a lot of nostalgia to it, of course.
I think so, yeah.
And it's like... It's sort of like with everything else that is appreciated by the big mass. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Psycho, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, The Thing, and so on and so on. Most of those movies I counted is masterpieces, of course, but
in their own right.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If you watch a movie when you're a kid, and it scares the hell out of you, and then you rewatch it as an adult, and you remember, okay, that this movie scared the shit out of me, and I loved it.
Yeah, and
it
remember core pieces oh, I remember how much that scared me, that certain thing.
Yeah. And it will probably... It probably won't scare you as an adult, but you will have the nostalgia of knowing that this movie scared me at one point.
Yeah. And just seeing something that scared you so much through different eyes, in a way. That, oh, I remember how scary this was, and then just seeing it, not being scared of it, and just viewing it from another perspective.
Yeah, having a fun time with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure,
it can still be an effective scare, but it may not have the same effect on you, or maybe it scares you in another way. But yeah, nostalgia is a powerful thing.
It is. Okay, like we already mentioned about 20 times already, this is a super well-known movie. There are tons of information about it out there, behind the scenes, commentary tracks, documentaries, panels, interviews, blah 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 fucking blah, yada yada yada.
There is nothing more that we can add that you can't find anywhere else. It's so easy to find it.
Exactly.
So it's more worth it if you look it up yourself.
Yeah. What can I tell anyone that isn't out on the internet? I mean.
Yeah, and hasn't been said 5 different ways over Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. And like we said at the beginning of the episode, we won't reveal the next movie we will talk about.
You'll just have to be a surprise.
But we will reveal what we are playing out with, and we are playing out with Omar Santana, Necronomicon Neophyte remix. So we're going Gabber this time again. So enjoy. Alright, let's wrap this one up then. Let's say goodbye to the good folks.
Goodbye, good people. Thanks for listening to this episode. And hopefully we will hear from you in the next one.
Thanks for listening, and thanks for staying with us. Even though we have had a rocky start of with 2023. Hopefully we hear from you in the next one. We'll see.
And
what
even if
that
this
will be.
is And even if this is the first episode that you've heard from us, thank you for sticking through it to the very end.
What Zombie said.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.